Hello, folks. Quick look at Boeing. So it is right now Sunday around 1:30 or so, waiting for futures to come out. So Boeing had a couple different strings of bad news last week. Just a mix between airlines, and then they, I believe, had to cancel another order. So Boeing obviously had a little bit of a rough go last week, and the reason I'm looking at it right now, so I sold all my calls in Boeing. I don't think I have any position on Boeing right now. Typically, I'm holding 2021 calls, and I sold out of them early last week. I typically carry low 500 January calls on Boeing. So I usually buy them around between 19 and 24 cents, and I'll typically aim to sell them between a minimum of 31 cents. I have been getting as much as 41 cents for them. It's obviously been a little while because I need Boeing to be in the 160s to be getting 41 cents on those calls. And now that we're going into May, so those calls I'm usually in January, so I'll have to go to March, most likely here. So anyway, the reason I'm looking at Boeing is because we had a tough week, and now it didn't even barely responded to Friday's. We had a sick run up on the S&P most of Friday, and then especially in the 3 o'clock hour. So with Boeing here, what we're looking at is this channel right here. So we fell through these fibs. So I had a fib chart set up for the week, and so at the top of that fib's at 144, bottom fib is at 133. So what we were looking for was a bounce on Boeing on Monday morning off the bottom of this fib chart. Obviously never happened, and then it was an easy short play until you came back to this trend line, which you never did. So how it's going to open Monday, without news, I can't see why you don't remain in this channel. Very, very wide, and I guess what I can do, I'm hesitant to draw a new trend line here, maybe connecting these two bottoms. I'll go ahead and do that right now anyway. I just don't see, I don't know, I don't think it's doomsday for Boeing. Obviously, Trump's talked about, well, we have to back up this company, and I think he's right. But here's the thing. It's different between backing up a company and then obviously being kind to its shareholders. So is the United States government going to make sure that Boeing still safely makes airplanes? Yeah, and I think they should. But is the United States government responsible for the shareholders? I don't think so. It's not the United States government role to bail out shareholders. We want to keep the company going because this is an American company that sells airplanes to every single country in the world, probably. And they have an ability to make airplanes at a much faster rate than Airbus. They can make the airplanes based on orders and not have to worry about all the cash, up front. And they can produce airplanes just at a much faster rate than Airbus. I'm sure Airbus has probably gotten a lot of investors, over the last, several months, maybe, years since this MAX deal started. But what we're looking at with Boeing is just a continuation in this down channel. And this was very wide. Like I said, now we've connected a couple of these low points on the chart. And I have to draw up new fibs if Boeing does not start to fill in this gap. It's possible tomorrow. We could have a big gap up on the ES. That's what I'm hoping for. And if we got back up into these fibs, then hopefully, we'll get into this channel right here, as if you can see. But right now, it's just a lot of dissension here with Boeing. It's always worth looking at since it's one of the most talked about stocks in any chat room, especially our Benzinga Pro room. So, this is just your overall downtrend with Boeing. I tried to figure out if this thing was going to get back to the 170s quickly, and it started to, and I just kept waiting for it to catch one of these ascending trend lines. So today on Sunday, as I start to clean up my charts, I'll obviously take apart a lot of these trend lines here. Obviously very unnecessary at this point. And just again, looking at the stock, what you had, this is your trend. This is going back, let's see, you have a week here, a week here, a week here. So this is like a month back. This is a month back when you hit the high, which is I remember shorting Boeing at like 179.50, something like that. But the high was around 180, right? We don't need to, exactly remember. But you had a high of 180 since the market bounced back, and this was your descending channel. And as I've talked about, what happens is, when you get panic selling or a liquidation break, you're going to fight your way back into the channel very typically. And in this case, people found value in Boeing around $122, $121.85. So those people found value. You probably had a market recovery on this day here. This is the Monday of 3 weeks ago. So tomorrow will be a Monday, so this will be 21 days ago or 20 days ago, as this is Sunday. So Boeing obviously had a very big day, big 2 days, and then it retraced here on a big sell-off starting on Tuesday. So what I'm getting at is this spike here is finding its way back into your descending channel. This is a recovery, and now here you have a spike up, and then it was hit by some bad news, and Boeing just wants to find its way back into the descending channel. So getting back up here, and again, this is a monthly chart, so these are going to be a little less detailed, and I'll go over to the 1 minute chart in a second. But what you have here is you have a very shallow ascending trend line. Boeing respected it here, but then blew right through it. So that's one of those deals you can probably just go ahead and get rid of it. So what you have here now is the obtuse triangle forming, and you need to figure out, you're not going to stay in an obtuse formation. You don't make higher highs and lower lows. That's just not what happens. So what we're going to look for is a resistance point as Boeing begins to trade on, maybe even pre-market, although I don't love pre-market, and I hope this camera was at a good angle. So I'm going to look for a resistance point to be set up, or if you get a spike up on Boeing, and I love my 15-minute charts. If you got a spike up on Boeing, then what you would look for is a support point. And, if it gets into these fibs, then, this is something we'll keep an eye on. But all signs point, if you have a big gap up tomorrow on the ES or the SPY, the ES is the SPY, if you guys aren't familiar. It's just a decimal point moved. But if you get a big gap up, I imagine Boeing is going to take some sympathy on that. Because, look, Boeing did grind up, pretty much all of Friday afternoon, after the steep sell-off here, based on some of the news we got on Friday. So if Boeing does happen to make its way back up here, look, it was respecting this trend line, and then again, like I said, this was your descending channel back to March. The stock wants to find its way back into that. So this is just a very interesting stock. Obviously, we all talk about it, we all look at it. It used to be a benchmark for the stock market, but it's not, because it's just, not the largest component on the Dow anymore. Apple is. And that's just, based on the market cap. So Boeing, it's not going to recover to that point anytime soon. But, the other thing I'm trying to say is this stock, unfortunately now, is not something that kind of trends the market. So you could have up days where Boeing just doesn't respond, or you could have, vice versa, where Boeing's having a nice day because people are buying it, because it certainly is cheap, compared to what it used to be 2 years ago, and, or even 18 months ago. So people are going to look at it. Hopefully it returns to those areas. You'd think Boeing's going to be back to $300 a share. You sure hope so within 12 months. And that's why I think it's, around 120 certainly seems to have a lot of support. Could it go to 100? Yes, but I don't think it's going to stay there for very long. So, it's a stock that right now, it's for me, I'll probably sit and watch. It seems to want to follow whatever trend it starts with, at least for a few hours in trading. So on one of those days where you see it start to go up, people jump on it, you can get on it, make a quick scalp, but it's going to be something that if you hold on to it, you're going to have to be prepared to be on the wrong side of the trade for at least a short amount of time, especially if you're going long right now. And I think Boeing's a good long, but you certainly could get back to $100 a share, very soon. Because, the travel industry, especially the airlines, the implications are, we're forecasting, but it could get worse. So for Boeing this week, you have to look for it to respect at least this channel here, which goes way back, back to the, I think it was the early April highs, or it might have been late March. So we've gone back now more than 50% retrace. We're probably in the 61 area right now, on our way back to 100. So if we bounce back here, then we should figure out a way to get back into this fib chart area, and maybe probably trade sideways for quite a bit, because until we get better news. Boeing's going to have to get the max back in the air, and that's probably going to be the catalyst for this stock to really start to recover. And unfortunately, you have a lot of headwind right now because you're going to have constant bad news released from the airlines. So it's a stock that, risk versus reward, if you're going to get into it. This is a very volatile stock, and it certainly has its rewards. If it's a stock that you're not going to worry about for 5 years, yeah, why not? This is the standard for airplane makers on the planet. The economy will recover, and we have a number of emerging markets that need airplanes. So best of luck with Boeing. Great American company. We do not want to see these guys become the next General Electric, and I don't think that they will. So best of luck, guys, and have a great week.